Hi, we're Diamond and Silk, and we love the Naked Truth Report.
Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Welcome, Truth Warriors, to the Naked Truth Report. I'm Kathleen Wells, your host. We're on the edge of our seat. What I was thinking that the show on Sunday is us anticipating what's going to happen starting on Monday for the week. Yes, the week starts Sunday, and we're anticipating what's going to happen. Yeah, we're always on our edge of our seat. I was listening to the Barack Laurie show, which is re-aired. It's originally aired live at 10 a.m., and then they re-aired it prior to this show, just prior, the hour prior. And I was listening to him, and he made the point that I was going to make. I saw this article at the Gateway Pundit that Biden actually received 13 million votes that could actually be possible with the number of registered voters that voted in the election. Yes. I see my guest is on the phone. My guest is Judge Joe Brown. He's a regular guest. He's been on a few times before. And why I brought him on is because, why I asked him to be a guest is because I saw a tweet that he had, and I thought it was quite powerful, actually, regarding Biden meeting with the so-called black civil rights leaders. I think he met with, Al Sharpton and Mark Morial. Mark Morial used to head the NAACP, and Cedric Redmond, and some other folks, And that meeting was leaked, and it had gone viral. So I want to bring Judge Joe Brown on to talk about his tweet in response to the leaked video of the Zoom meeting that Biden had with so-called black civil rights leader. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report, Judge Joe Brown.
Well, hello there. How are you?
How are you? Merry Christmas. Oh, I haven't said that. Merry Christmas, Truth Warriors, and Merry Christmas, Judge Joe Brown. I forgot to say it.
Ho, ho, ho.
Are you prepared for Christmas? Are your spirits up?
I don't celebrate it.
Why? Is that too personal?
No, I just don't like all that Christmas music. I've heard it over and 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 over for many decades. It's boring. They need something new. And my little response is a nice little ditty. Dashing through the mall in a wore-out, broke-down ride, rushing through the stores, spending all the way. Your credit is long gone. Your checks are overdrawn. Oh, what fun to buy and spend for your trifling kids and friends. Oh, bye, bye, bye. Bye, 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 spend your money today. It's so much fun going broke or the holidays, etc.
Oh, I don't want to call you Scrooge, though. I mean...
Well, it's depressing. That's why so many people kill themselves. You got these funeral dirges playing on the loudspeaker all the time, over and over and over again.
Oh, my...
Let's wait till the first New Year's, and then everybody can have a non-denominational party,
Right.
Well, it doesn't look like we'll have one this year, or we shouldn't, basically. Let's see. So, it is what it is.
It is what it is. And in fact, we're not supposed to be here in California. I know you're not in California. You're in the South. What state are you in, Judge Joe Brown? I forgot.
I'm in Tennessee.
Yeah, you're in Tennessee. Here in California, our mayor, Los Angeles, our mayor, Garcetti, said we should not. In fact, Dr. Fauci said we should forego meeting with our children because of the COVID.
Let me say something. Over the last 50 years, I have seen the perversion of the concept of common sense. There's been a concerted propaganda campaign to get people to distrust legitimate science, medicine, and technology. Some people have an agenda that requires that you accept mythology and desire instead of objectivity and science. So it's been discredited. We have a tendency where we always want authority, but it's interesting that the authority we seek is not basic research. It's some cockamamie opinion of somebody that may not be situated to give an opinion. For example, Dr. Fauci may be an intelligent person, but he does not have advanced degrees in virology or epidemiology, which is the science of epidemics. So we hang on every word, and when we get somebody else that wants to say, we've got this over here, and all of these people, scientists, support this, but if you read what is actually published, what they're saying is nonsense. Everybody says, I want authority, I want references. They don't want raw material. They want somebody's opinion, and they think something is valid because they've written one article that gets published somewhere on the net. That's not what it's about. So it's up to you to go do the basic research and find out what's going on. So when Garcetti or Fauci says something, you have a pretty good idea of what's going on, and you can look at it as interesting opinion rather than, oh my God, what should I do? You see, I don't trust any of the bozos that are in office or in positions of power to have suggestions on what I ought to do unless they've got DDS, MD, or a PhD that's associated, and I chose to gravitate toward their opinion because I have formed the like one or I acknowledge their expertise. One of the things that I get from my age and where I've been in life is, what are your references for this? Fool, I don't need a reference. I was there. I was an eyewitness. Well, Dr. So-and-so says such and such. Yeah, Dr. So-and-so wasn't born for 27 years after the fact of what I am talking about. And he's quoting third-hand hearsay. I witnessed it. See, people don't get that. They want to see CSI in a trial. Well, Your Honor, where is the CSI? There's no such thing as CSI. But it's on television. That's science fiction. It doesn't exist. Well, all we heard was testimony. Well, sorry to tell you, but for several thousand years, that's all you got to hear was testimony. There is no magical science that you don't trust anyway. So let's start thinking. You know, stop looking for somebody to do your thinking for you. And damn it, stop playing video games, watching basketball, football, baseball, housewives, all of this nonsense that you use to distract yourself, and pay attention to what you ought to pay attention to be a good citizen.
Yeah,
The Constitution takes an average high school graduate about 10, 15 minutes to read. It's in a pamphlet. It's only 7 or 8 pages long. They got more on commentary than they do on the actual Constitution, but nobody's read it. They give them away free in the mall. Get one.
Well, you know, it's taken us decades to get here. I talk about how the American people, or at least a segment, or at least half of the American people, have been dumbed down because of the culture, because of TV. Yes, this is a problem.
Well, it's even that. And see, what's even worse, it used to be you had to read something. And in the process of somebody getting an opinion or research published, it had to go through some changes and it got vetted. Any stupid ignoramus can get published today. And people still operate, it is written, therefore. So they've been conditioned to go for that, but they really don't read because they've been conditioned to get all of their information from some college dropout news reader who gives you a 10 to 15 second soundbite on a subject that requires 15 years worth of study to grasp. But that's supposed to suffice. And then what he's reading you is coming across a teleprompter that some 21-year-old with 1 year of junior college has prepared for you. Oh, man, he's down and, man, he trying to go off on that bootleg thing, man, about you need an education. Yeah, you do need an education. 50 years ago, if you wanted to be hip, white, black, brown, red, yellow, you had a college education. And the other thing was, unless you had a personal vendetta against Ho Chi Minh and you had a desire to vacation in a very sunny, very hot, 110-degree jungle with fetid rice paddies fertilized by human excrement as the backdrop, then you stayed in college so you maintain a 2A status rather than a 1A. And got that letter, greetings from your president. You are hereby ordered to report to your local induction station for a pre-induction physical. You know, I mean, now everybody looks down on education as something that is just extraneous so you can get a degree on the wall and not learn anything, and then they don't teach the people anything in school now because they all have their hearts set on getting these degrees. So why should we make it so difficult for them? Hell, the real world is difficult.
And what they're teaching them is not sufficient or accurate either. And actually, Dr. Fauci said that even if we get the vaccine, you still have to wear a mask. Yes.
Well, look here. Let me say something. I'm thinking of a class I had in a minor in vertebrate paleontology, and we were studying the role of pathogens in species extinction and species development. All right? That's 53 years ago I had that class, 1967. And what you are looking at is what is inevitable when you get some organism starting to dominate the landscape to the extent that humans do. It's inevitable. What you have to deal with is that pathogens mutate. And right now, they have a thing that happened yesterday, or actually this morning. The Euro Union is forbidding air traffic in and out of England because of a very nasty new strain to COVID-19 that's developed. Actually, SARS-CoV-2 is the one that causes COVID-19, but there's a nasty new strain that apparently has mutated and occurred. This is like Frankenstein's monster. It doesn't make any difference whether it came out of somebody's lab or it developed naturally. Once it gets loose, it's got a life of its own. And we've got a beta coronavirus running wild with an S on its chest flying a cape. Is trying to invade bodies and take them over and replicate. Now, yeah, you got a right to make choices, but quit relying on somebody's opinion and do the bloody research yourself and make up your mind. You're in America, you get choices. The downside of having the choices is that we're in the People's Republic of China, they've got a very low rate of infection because they say, you will be home. You will wear a mask. If you don't, you'll disappear. And, oh, by the way, there is a wall that we would like to see if your dead body can help hold up after it gets shot. Okay? This stuff that they're coming up with has not been sufficiently tested. And to a great extent, it is the result of a punk attitude of people saying, oh, my God, we're so scared. Be brave. Oh my God, we're so weak. Grow stronger. And this vaccine, the several that they're talking about, have not been adequately tested to the point where what is being observed can be said definitely to be a consequence of the vaccine, or it is just a random coincidence. The other thing is we have one idiot running around talking about, 100 million doses in 100 days, but this idiot can't even get his facts right, or what the real significance is the one he's talking about says you have to have 2 inoculations 3 weeks apart.
Yeah.
So 100 million doses in 100 days is only, 50 million people in 100 days, and they have to have vaccinations 3 weeks apart. You get 50 million, but you know there are 340 million people in the country, maybe 360 million. So what happens? There are some allergic reactions to at least one of them that is counterindicative of giving some of the most at-risk people the bloody inoculations because they may have a negative reaction to it, and the public has been conditioned to be fearful. It's all right to be afraid. That's all right. You don't have to be brave. That's just all of this toxic masculinity that says you have to be brave. And, oh, my God, you're owed protection. Well, if you make the choice, fine. But at least know what the hell you're doing rather than relying on somebody you don't even know personally. You have never read what his references are or her references, and that's who you make up your mind off of. Go do the studying yourself, because a lot of this, if you had gone through and paid attention in 5th grade, they don't teach it in 5th grade anymore, but they used to. You'd get a clue as to what you're listening to. But we have our schools are really getting out of hand. And they're not teaching our children what they need to be taught, and those children grow up to become us. So what do we teach our children so when they grow up to become us? As much as we need STEM, science, technology, and engineering and math, they're getting taught LGBT.
Right.
As much as we need man, they're being taught gay.
And social justice,
right,
and how to be a social justice warrior. But
as much as we need strength,
yeah,
the children are being taught weak. As much as we need order, they're being taught disorder.
Right.
As much as they need decency, they're being taught freak. As much as we need family, they're being taught they need none. As much as we need motherhood, they're being taught to demean womanhood. As much as we need to protect childhood, they're being taught to be sex objects. As much as we need, they ought to be taught to be strong in thought and deed. Hey, that's a rhyme right there. And as much as we need to be free, they need to be taught what they ought to do and that they must want what they should do. We're not teaching that. And these children become us. And this collective is going to hell until we start understanding that there is adversity in the world. Look at what we do right now. Oh, my God, the children are being bullied. And, oh, he killed himself when they bullied him online. Oh, my God, it's up to the teachers and the police and the parents to protect the children from being bullied. Oh, my God. Hell, you aren't worth a damn as a man if you don't grow up and learn how to deal with a bully. Even look at that movie from the 80s, Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. McFly is bullied around by Bill. That's the dad. And the son goes back, gets the dad to get some backbone. He knocks Bill out at the prom. And when son gets back, Bill works for dad now. That even understood. But look where the culture's gone in 35 years. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God, the bullies. He killed himself after he was bullied online. And see, the fallout is, we can't have this. People need to be happy. They can't hear things that make them feel bad. So you got Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and every other little fly-by-night something trying to censor everything
Right.
that is First Amendment so nobody feels uncomfortable.
Right.
Well, guess what? The First Amendment was never designed to protect from some weak person from feeling uncomfortable.
Right.
What
Judge,
the hell is going on here?
I know, Judge, but before we're going to take a break in about 4 minutes, but before we go to the break, I want you to start on your response in that tweet you gave to the so-called civil rights folks having a Zoom meeting with Biden. So start, and when we come back from the break, you
so
can.
embarrassing. That was just, I mean, I graduated from UCLA before the 60s were out. And as a man, anybody since then, I would have stopped any SOB doing that. And I said, wait a minute, you go to hell. Who do you think you are? Don't you come in here and after what you have gotten from the people, tell them that, oh, we don't even appreciate you. What you're getting, you better be glad for what you got. No, we haven't promised you anything. You know, the Hispanics are going to be the majority,
Right.
which he was wrong. It's going to be the largest minority by 2040. So you better go get them to get whatever you want to get. Well,
Right, exactly.
nothing wrong with coalitions, but I mean, that's like slap in the face. Damn fool slaves, you did what we told you to do. We don't need to thank you. We'll give you a kibble in a bit. You guys get to be the showpiece monkeys out there on a little cute little chain with the organ grinder, turning it around, and you dance and do tricks, and people throw money in the hats. It was embarrassing.
Utterly.
And then they had the nerve to call them black leadership. Hell, that's not leadership.
Right.
That's just a clown show.
That was Al Sharpton and Mark Muriel.
What?
What?
A bunch of third-floor house wenches and house Negroes prospering and getting put in their place by Master Biden.
In fact, I think he told them that the KKK used to be antagonistic against Catholics. Yes, he told them that.
Wow. Look, I heard him. I don't want to keep rehashing what this election period was about, cycle, in selecting the, attempting to select a member for an electoral college. But, you know, the one thing that comes out of it is the total ignorance of the public, and also one thing, America is probably worst in the world when it comes to historic voter fraud.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing about it is unlike most countries, we don't have much law to deal with it. And we very seldom have a law. In fact, there's never been a situation where we have had such accusations of national systemic fraud. Now, let me touch on one other thing people need to understand very quickly, what the Electoral College is about. This country is a union of sovereign entities. It started off with 13 sovereign states, just like the Euro Union has France, Germany, Denmark, Italy, Greece, etc. They're all sovereign entities, but they're in a Euro Union. That's modeled on our model. And right now we've got 50 sovereign states. And those sovereign states get to send representatives to Congress who sit in the House of Representatives and in the U.S. Senate to make the laws that govern this union of 50 sovereign states. They also get to send a board that is known as an electoral college to D.C. to select what the Constitution calls the chief executive of the United States. That is, the states that are united, their chief executive is known as the president. The president is not elected by the people.
Oh, wait, we're going to take a break. There's your Christmas music. I know you hate it. I love it. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this break. And I want you to not lose that thought, Judge Joe Brown, okay? We'll be right back, okay? This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm speaking with Judge Joe Brown, and we're talking about the massive fraud in the election. We'll be right back.
Oh, come, all ye faithful.
I'm going to cut it short because I know Judge Joe Brown really isn't in the mood. He'll be in the mood at the first of the year. This is the Naked Truth Report. My guest is Judge Joe Brown. And we're talking about what? The electoral process, the actual fraud that is taking place. So you want to enlighten us, Judge Joe Brown?
Electoral college is about. See, in our collective ignorance, we think of this as 340 to 380 million people selecting our president. Indirectly, we are not selecting our president as a head of state. We're selecting a chief executive officer. Literally, the Constitution says chief executive for the states. The states are sovereign entities. We are residents of states. We vote in the state where we are resident. We have driver's licenses issued by our resident states. We pay property taxes, and we have regulations that apply based on where you declare your domicile or residence. The state you are a resident of as a sovereign entity has entered into a treaty, so to speak, with other sovereign states, and as a result, they have the United States of America. The states that are united in America are selecting their chief executive, and they send representatives to elect their chief executive. We are not voting as 340 to 380 million people on somebody that is a figurehead president of all the people. The man we are electing is the chief executive of this union of 50 sovereign states. But you see, the press does not do anybody any good by being too ignorant itself to explain this. Now, there are those who will challenge me in saying that states are not sovereign. And I know one foolish person did that, and then I just cited some ignorant article written by a 22-year-old who was still in college that was on the net, on Google, and he was satisfied that even though somebody's been in law for 50 years, did pretty damn well at UCLA Law School, and has had a distinguished legal career, I didn't know anything but a 22-year-old because he was quoted on Google was enough to satisfy him that the states are sovereign, not somebody who's got the expertise.
Right.
See, that's how we think. That had something to do with the remarks I made earlier about, oh, wow, we go to non-authority to get support. In other words, we just want somebody to say something so we can join the crowd instead of having an original thought or doing some personal research. But you see, that's one of the things we have a problem with. And one of the reasons it's so difficult is because states' rights have become rather unfashionable these days because of the association with racism and a few other things. But the fact of the matter is the Electoral College is a creature of the structure of the states that are united in America. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I want to mention that Sidney Brown has just filed a suit today for writ of certiorari to the Supreme Court, questioning the constitutionality of three Pennsylvania Supreme Court cases that changed the mail-in ballot requirements prior to and subsequent to the election. Just today she filed that writ to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, well, let me explain what the problem is about that. It may have merit, but first you have to have standing. For example,
well, actually, it was
somebody you know has been talked about by somebody else you know. You cannot file on that person's behalf an action for defamation of character. They have to.
Well, this complaint was filed by President Trump.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Here is the other. See, sovereign entities are immune from suit unless they allow themselves to be sued. States can sue each other if they have standing. Now, the problem with Texas is that Texas was trying to say that what happened in Pennsylvania affected it, and they were doing the equivalent of a stockholder's derivative action. All right? Well, what got happened is it wasn't really dismissed on the merits. It was just that that's up to these people in Pennsylvania, not you in Texas. And as long as you get the selectees to help choose the chief executive that influences your state, one of 50, you got nothing to complain about and no standing to get in to impact what happens in another sovereign state.
Well, Alito and
I don't like what my neighbor does, but as long as my neighbor's not breaking the law, I can't influence what he does in his house.
Well, Clarence Thomas and Alito believe that Texas did have standing, original jurisdiction.
Well, I know, but Clarence Thomas isn't what's known in the legal community as its greatest scholar.
Well, Alito is.
Him either.
Anyway, so this new suit.
Let me qualify that.
Okay.
Here's why I would say they're not. When Alito and Thomas write an opinion, very seldom does the opinion set a precedent. They tend to be on ad hoc situations, so even if you quote them, you did not set a rule of law. They're more ideological. Not saying that I disagree with the ideology, but they will not be quoted to a great extent in the future as being somebody that contributed to the development of American law.
Well, you know, this is actually good to know, actually, because you're saying there is a legitimate legal basis for the Texas case to not be heard on its merit and accepted.
And what's going on
so
is
that
it has to get right. Federal law is really complicated because we've got so many people that have contributed to it recently who are not well grounded in common sense or law to begin with, and they've added a whole bunch of little clauses, and we have too many appellate court justices who've never dealt with people law. In other words, there's no ordinary person across their desk that they are interviewing, counseling, and solving the problems are. They're not problems that deal with ordinary people. They're esoteric matters of contracts for mega corporations. We don't study constitutional law in law school anymore as it applies to individual rights. You talk about it in terms of conflict of interest for multi-billion-dollar corporate entities. See, we've gotten away from people law, and too many of the justices have not practiced law dealing with individuals. I don't think there's one justice on the Supreme Court right now that has done that. But that's not good for law.
Well, but what you're saying makes me believe that the Supreme Court will take up to hear on its merits some of these.
Maybe if somebody develops the foundation. One of the problems is that this has not come up before. So they're hunting for precedents. And you see, everybody's been trying to get judges who don't make law. But in this case, there's no law, so they're going to have to make it.
Well, in
You
the
got
Supreme
people.
Court case that she filed, that Powell filed on behalf of Donald Trump as the
I got
plaintiff.
that, but what I'm trying to say is I'm sympathetic to Trump's situation. All right, let me say that. I'm not anti-Trump. I voted for him. Okay,
Right.
voted for him first time. All I'm saying is that when you deal with law, you are supposed to be objective and detached. You have tradition and precedent and the evolving conditions of society. Now, I know you have a conservative audience, but this is not anti-conservative. Let me just say this. One of the more popular rants amongst the conservative crowd is that we need to get away from the anathema of judge-made law, all of these judges who are trying to make law.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the truth of the matter is when they say this is not what the founders intended, the very first case the United States Supreme Court heard in the 1790s had to do with the Sixth Amendment that says no matter tried before a jury upon the common law shall be heard upon appeal except upon application of the common law. What does the common law mean? I will quote verbatim what the Supreme Court held unanimously. Quote, all law in the United States is common law until superseded by legislative statute, ordinance, or regulation. The common law is that body of, quote, judge-made law based on tradition, precedent, and the evolving conditions of society, unquote. So you hear so many conservatives spouting about the intent of the founders, and it's noted every single one of the original 9 justices on the U.S. Supreme Court who voted unanimously in favor of the language that is contained in this very first decision, say that all law in the United States is common law, all common law is judge-made law, therefore all law in the United States is judge-made law until it's superseded by statutory law. It is based on tradition, that's what's gone before, precedent, the decisions that have been made before, and, quote, the evolving conditions of society. So when you hear somebody spouting off that the founders did not intend for the Constitution to evolve, you're 9 people that either fought in the Revolutionary War or who were on the First Continental Congress or participating in the setting up of the country who says, yes, it does. You see, that's another example of ignorance that's profound. The principle behind that the Nazis knew well, which was tell a lie long enough, loud enough, you can get anybody to believe it. I'll give you an example. I'm Second Amendment all the way, but a lot of Second Amendment people have this myth about the Great 45 Auto. The 1911 was adopted because the 38 Colt revolver couldn't stop charging morals. Well, guess what, friends and fellow supporters of the Second Amendment? There is not one thing in writing anywhere in any War Department record where anybody was complaining about the 38 revolver. Every single letter and complaint was that the 30-40 Craig rifle was deficient in stopping morals. And please send us over some 1897 Winchester 12-gauge riot guns, which became trench guns.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I just don't believe that the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause was intended for transgenders, despite the.
We're not talking about transgenders. I haven't got there yet.
Yeah, but you're saying that it should be.
No. I'm not going there.
Okay.
Tradition, precedent, and the evolving conditions of society.
Right.
Okay, let's look at the tradition, precedent, and evolving conditions of society. On my research, for what it's worth, let me just say under the Constitution, gays have an absolute right to do what they want to do in the bedroom. But you see, there is this thing called LGBTQ, et cetera, which even a lot of gays consider to be a cult. Like all black people, obviously, are not Democrats, but a lot of people make the assumption that they are. Like all gays are not LGBTQ. Now, on the 14th Amendment, here is the thing that I use as an argument to show it did not get it isn't appropriate to this for this. I'm saying, okay, they have no choice. That's the argument on what their orientation is. Okay, fine. But they do have a choice on exercising and manifesting or expressing that orientation. And by that I mean, unless somebody got raped, the sex is consensual. If anything is consensual, that implies a priori choice. And the Constitution in the Bill of Rights well covers the exercise of choice, but it does not intend that somebody's choice, an option, vests as such a fundamental issue as is covered under the 14th Amendment. You see, race, color, creed, national origin, religion, sex.
Well, they've included sexual preference now under the 14th Amendment.
I'm debunking that because I'm going to give you the logic behind it. It's specious. See, race, color, creed, national origin, religion, sex, age, medical or physical condition, all right? Those are things that cannot be controlled. I don't care whether you're compelled to be gay or not. If you have sex, unless you rape somebody, it's by consent, yes or no? Are you black by consent? No, that's the dictates of society. Are you Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, Islamic? For the most part, a lot of people have no choice because if you don't go to church, synagogue, or mosque on Sunday or whenever the holy day is, you can't go anywhere else by the rest of the week. You're conditioned to that. You can't control your sex. Gender used to be synonymous with sex, but one of the reasons we don't appreciate science now is we've got all of this faux science to support, what is it? They're talking about 58 genders? That's nonsense. So what you're trying to get, and by the way, this is one of the reasons that the COVID-19 relief was held up under Pelosi, is she was trying to bamboozle the Senate into passing the Equality Act, which, by the way, just makes choices equal of conditions that cannot be chosen. See, all of the rest of the stuff embodied in the Civil Rights Bill, 64, 68, and whatever it may be, involve situations you have no choice in.
But I want to get back. We got just about 4 more minutes. I want to get back. Do you think that one of the election lawsuits questioning the constitutionality of the 2020 election, do you think one of them will get before the Supreme Court?
It might. And then the question is under American law, will that be too late? Let me explain. Okay, you want to take somebody to court, and you're saying they're going to make a choice based on deceit and fraud. Well, they haven't made the choice yet. Has the Electoral College voted yet?
Oh, so
I'm saying?
Yes, so you're saying that after June 6th, it will become ripe. Is that what you're saying?
Not June 6th.
January
after
6th.
They cast January 6th.
Yeah,
if they cast their vote and it reflects fraud, then the issue might become ripe. Until then, that's like, we got to castigate them now because of what they may be thinking. You see where that goes? Yeah. In other words, the issue has to become ripe. Right. In other words, somebody who is identifiable, who is in the status of being somebody who has standing, has to be harmed. Right. So the harm hasn't vested yet.
Well, that's good to know because there were a lot of rumors or a lot of thoughts going around on social media that there was a problem with the Supreme Court. Judge Roberts and or Breyer were somehow compromised or corrupted, and that's why they didn't take up to hear the Texas case on it. They didn't grant review of the Texas case. But so that's good to hear that you think that legitimately, and I think DeGeneva took this position.
Let me say something about that. I've been a judge and an arbitrator for 30-some years, all right? And I got a 50-year legal career, okay? There is this thing about following the rules that transcends personal interest in it. I was an adjunct professor at a local law school, and I was teaching law students third year about the practice of law, okay? So I would give them moot cases that they had to prepare. One side's the plaintiff, one side's the defendant. On the day when they had to participate for a grade, I'd make them swap. All right, you're in here for the defense. Now you represent the plaintiff. You represented the plaintiff. You now represent the defendant. That's not fair, Professor. Yes, it is, because you're supposed to be objective, impartial, and neutral. And if you are a good lawyer in private practice, on the first week of April, you may have a client who represents the defense aspect of this case, and you got to defend them. And a week later, a client walks in where they're in the position of being the plaintiff on the same issue. You have to understand the issues just as well. And if you're going to give them sound counseling and advice, you have to be dispassionate and detached in what you do, and you have to be able to look at what's going on with objectivity. That's why they say the lawyer that represents himself has either got a fool for a client or a fool for a lawyer, and why damn near every lawyer and judge has lawyers that represent him or her. So you can get this element of detachment. Well, they know each other. They talk. Well, yeah, that's true.
We got 1 minute, Judge Joe Brown. So we got 1 minute. So wrap it up. You think it's going to be heard before the Supreme Court? You think
it might. But then the most interesting thing is the effect of this executive order for 2017.
Yeah.
Nobody's covering that. And
I covered that last year. The 2018 executive order.
The day after the evidence comes to bear, it becomes a matter to be tried in a military tribunal if it gets to that, because the civilian ones may be corrupted. That's a whole different ball game.
Oh, that's excellent. We ran out of time, Judge Joe Brown. You know I love to have you on the show. I'm going to have you on again. Last week I talked about that executive order that was executed in 2018. We're going to bring that up again, right? Okay, thank you, Judge Joe Brown. I'm going to call you again and have you on again. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas, and I'll see my Truth Warriors in a week. Yes, and something new. We'll discuss something new. Thank you very much.